Alright, so how you doing? This is Neil. I'm going to show you guys a quick lesson on how I personally use Copic markers to look like a painted look. So this here is Pennywise, and then we got Shinichi here, which is more of a painted look, but it's still manga, but it has that more painterly look to it. And I'm going to show you guys the difference and show you some really cool tips and tricks on how to blend the colors and how to get good, good skin tones. Notice that this looks like skin, but there's actually tons of colors that go into this. It's not just, a skin tone and then a darker skin tone and a lighter skin tone or something. It's this looks like red, but there's actually blues and all kinds of stuff in here. So basically, you don't want to just stay in the same color family. And that's how you get around it looking like cartoonish, like let's say something like this right here. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. First, I want to show you guys here is the difference between what happens when you take the exact same thing, but you have the jacket, for example. See how this jacket has so much variation in it? And this jacket here doesn't. This is because I stayed in the same color family, meaning that I used all blues. So everything was in the same color family. This one here, I don't stay in the same color family. I use blues, grays. In gray as a foundation just to make it look less saturated. That way it looks more realistic. And then I also even add some like purples in there and then some like yellows for the lighting in there and so forth, because he has this kind of like bright light behind that's like a yellowish color. So using the opposite side of the color wheel is a great way to do that. And so the basic idea then that we're going to get into as we start blending these colors is think about your color wheel here. So you have your primary colors, your blue, yellow, and red. And we know that blue and yellow make green, and that red and yellow make orange, and that blue and red make a purple. Now with the Copic markers, it's going to be really hard to like blend them together to get a green, but you kind of can. If you use like a blue and a yellow, you might be able to get away with making a green. So for example, if you just lay down a little bit of blue really fast, and before that dries, start laying down some yellow, that's kind of more of a yellowish orange, and then kind of just blend that right back in there. You can kind of get a green. If as that dries, it'll kind of look more of a green color, but it's going to be a more desaturated green, but that's still good. And that's good to know how to desaturate colors. So saturation is how bright the color looks or how kind of more on the gray end a color looks. And as you see, as it dries, it starts to look green. But again, it's a more desaturated green, where this is more of a nice bright green. So that's a good thing to do. But I recommend just using a desaturated green that's in your colors. So find like on this side of the colors, you have these desaturated greens. All right, so let's go ahead and get started with how to blend and how to get cool looks. So notice that here, this is all in the same color family. I didn't vary. By color family, I mean everything here are forms of red. Here, everything's not forms of red. Now, it might be kind of hard on the camera to see the difference between that, but there is a big difference. And let me try to zoom in so you can maybe see this a little bit better. So I'm trying to get so you can kind of see it side by side here too. So as you can see, there is quite a big difference between these two. This one looks a lot more realistic. This one looks more cartoony. Now, if you want that kind of bright, more cartoony look, like the jacket and stuff like that, then you just go ahead and stay in the same color family. Either way, the blending part, though, is going to be the same regardless of what colors you're using. But yeah, so first thing is, let's go ahead and blend some skin tones here, because that's what a lot of people, I think, struggle with a lot, is how to get good skin tones. And notice that this is staying in the same color family. Look how cartoony that looks compared to this here, where I don't stay in the same color family. So how to avoid staying in the same color family is just use the opposite colors to tone a color down. So let's say I'm using skin tones and stuff like that. So skin tones is a mixture of basically the red and yellow, which makes kind of an orangish color. That'd be kind of peach. Add a little bit of white to that, which there isn't white in Copic markers, but they add some sort of something to make it whiter. That's how you get your skin tones. And so you got to think about that. So it's basically in this warm area. So you want to add something like a blue or something like that to tone it down. Now I have my main colors I like to use for skin, and I'll show you those exact color names because Copic markers are labeled with numbers, which is really cool. So the first thing is this is the main skin tone I like to use right here, which is E21. So E21 is what I like to use. And we're going to go lay this down as a flat color right now. And so when you're laying in your color, try not to lift the pen. when you're laying down your first colors. Let's say you wanted all this to be, I'm not going to go up on the fingers right now, I'm just going to do the palm area, is you want to not lift the pen. You don't want to stay in one spot too long because you're trying to get a nice even spread like that. If there's a little bit of streaks, don't worry about it. Usually these markers are really good in blending together. So that's going to be my base color for my skin. Now remember what I told you is you don't really want to use colors that are all in the same color family. So I don't want to just like go and go, okay, let's use a darker skin tone, you know, like this E35. Unless you want to look cartoonish like this down here. You want to look more like this up here, that's not what you're going to do. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this kind of pinkish color. I kind of like this right now. This is how I did this skin tone here. And I add this into where I want my shadows. And I know it looks really, really pink. I make sure this is even the right color. I think it is because I have it there next to my color. So it should be. Hopefully I didn't accidentally swap it out. But it should be, yeah. Anyway, it's RV21. So at first by itself it looks really, really pink. It looks like, why would you use that in your skin tone? But that's the same color I used here. So I know that all this area here is going to be dark, and so I'm going to start just putting it all where I know the dark is going to be. And this is like the first layer. Now that's what's really cool about using good Copic paper as well. And so I recommend buying this, I can't remember the exact name brand, but this is basically the brand that Copic Markers recommends. So you just look up their brand that they recommend. I'm going to go really outside this line just a little bit like that. So that starts to give me that kind of color that I want. Now next I'm going to use, I can either use like, if I want it to be more of a cooler skin tone, I can use this blue here that I like. And notice it's totally opposite, so this is B00. That's the number on this one. And this will bring it to the total opposite of the like color likenesses. It's like it's on the other side of the color wheel. It's on the cool side of the color wheel. And so we're working with warms right now down here on this side of the color wheel. And this is like the opposite side of the color wheel. Like the opposite of orange is blue. And so that's going to kind of, if I were to put it down over this right here, this is almost kind of an orangey pink color. It's going to basically mute that and make it a lot more gray. So if I wanted to tone all this down and make it gray, I can add that color to it. And that might even start to make it kind of look like a brown. Now another one I like to use is this one here, this kind of purplish color. This is great as well. This is usually the next color that I use for laying in my shadows over the pink. This is BV00. And it's kind of a light purple. It's not too dark. And as you start to pull this in right over the pink, I want to leave a little bit of the pink there because I do want some of that to show through. Now I might go ahead and go another layer with this to start darkening this up. I don't want to add too much, otherwise it will start to go toward that purple side, like so. So now I got this nice, variation of color going on here. Now in order to make this pop out and look more yellow like this does here, that's pretty simple to do, and that's just by adding more dark colors. The more dark colors I make the shadow look, the more that's going to look like it's, I'm going to add a little more of this. It's going to look more, I lost my train of thought. Anyway, it'll look more like on the brighter side of the orange. I'm just adding a little bit more of this pink back in there in some spots. Now if I want to kind of get that like desaturated color there, I'm going to use blue. And what this will do when I add this blue in here is it's going to kind of desaturate that color a little bit. Now I'm not doing everything exactly the same as I did before, but just showing you guys how you can play with colors. And it's amazing like how many colors you can use and have the end result still look like skin. Now I'm going to take this darker purple color. This is the BV04. And I can start adding this in where I really want more darker shades. So I'm going to come right along this edge here. Now I know it's going to be kind of hard to tell right at this point of the coloring because we're still early on. Like that. So that looks it looks very purple right now. And to knock that back, I can either go back over it with a skin tone. This is a good way to blend. Oops, I'm not going to use that blend. I'm going to use my regular skin tone. And this is how when you go back over all these colors here, you can actually blend them in to where they don't look so saturated. Is go back with the base color that you were using in the beginning for your skin. I'm going to make that look a little bit darker there. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to add another layer of skin tone here. This is just putting skin tone over skin tone. But you can also, blend in with the edges. Now another way to blend as well is you can blend with the clear. So if you buy a set, it should come with this clear, and clear is this 0. This has no color in it at all, and it's just used as a blender, like so. If I want it to be less desaturated, I can take gray. This is a very light gray. This number is C-1, and I can just come right over everything with this. It's a very, very light gray. And sometimes I even blend with this when I just want everything to look less saturated. Notice how that knocked down the saturation quite a bit. Might be kind of hard to see on the camera, but now it's a lot less saturated, which gives it that more kind of realistic look. This would be really good too if the person is existing in the shadows a little bit or something like that, or they're not like directly in the sunlight. Now if I wanted to, I can also take a very mild yellow. In this case, probably something like Y00. And I like to test it on the paper first and go, okay, that's fine. And I'm just want to add just a little bit of that into there, and maybe like right here and here, just to kind of add some color variation. It's very, very little, but it does make a difference in the overall look of things. All right, next is, I know that I'm like, okay, now I need to add, either use a darker red or like that is mixed red and yellow together. This is probably too dark of a red. I don't know if you can see where I just made that little dash there. But I can add now, that's what I did over here. To make that look kind of like brown, I actually added red. You can also add like a red brown into there. And sometimes I like to start lighter just in case. Like this is a good red brown. This is E08. And I'm just going to come here and add this right over. I'm working fast here, so I want to try to get through as much information as possible. Like that, and then I'm going to blend that now with the blue, so opposite of like the brown. So remember, browns will be somewhere between, it's kind of like a red and orange together, but with a little bit of muddiness into it, a little bit of blue into it. So it's kind of like a mixture between that there. So kind of like a green would kind of be sort of like the opposite of a brown, but I'm going to go ahead and add this blue right into there. I'm actually going to add that purple back into it. I typically stick to my same skin tones that I have already added before, and then that kind of cools it down so it doesn't look as warm as it did. And I wanted to show something different. I didn't want to use exact same colors as I did here because to do this, I mainly just stuck to more of a darker like red brown color, and then I added that, then added the blue in there as well. Now it's also, this looks very off to this, so that's not matching. So for example, let's say I wanted to start working all this and making it look more like the other side over there. I can start adding this purple. This is again the BV04, that's the color. And I come right in here and just start adding this right over everything. And we can start making this kind of match the overall tone. I'm going to do now the BV00. Oops, it pulled that color right off. This is already dried for a while, so that's why I was going to do that. And then I can add some of the pink or some of the skin tone back over that, and that's to make it look a little bit more brown. I can even add red back into it and things like that. So but you get the idea how just doing that, and then sometimes just on the very edge I'll add this kind of pink color, so it's like making that warm transition between the shadows and where it transitions over to the light of the skin. And that's where you get your main, so where the shadows transition to the light, that's where you mainly get your transitions there. All right, so really quickly I kind of want to show the idea of how the coat is here. So notice how different the coats look, and how do we get that look. Now this is kind of already done, so it's going to be kind of hard, especially since it's sat for a while. But basically you would take a gray and just knock all the color back with the gray. I'm going to use a darker gray here. This is C3. And you would just come in here and knock all this color back with the gray. Now again, this is already settled for so long that I'm probably not going to be able to get it to match the other colors. Kind of you want to start from scratch to do this. And I can do his pants this kind of blue color and kind of show you the method of how it works. But notice by just adding that gray in there, it's already knocked the color back quite a bit to where it's not nearly as bright as it was before. Then you can use, like I said, complementary colors, or excuse me, not complementary, colors on the opposite side of the color wheel. I guess, yeah, that is complementary colors. Duh. They're the colors on the opposite side of the color wheel. So let's say blue, the opposite of that, is kind of like an orangish color. I just don't want anything too orangey, so I want to use something more like a peachy. So the YRO2, never did this color before over it, but I know that how colors work, so I'm pretty positive if I add this over the blue, and this is such a dark blue though already, but you can see it starts to knock it back, and as that dries, it's gonna kind of make it to where it's not so saturated looking. Let's go ahead and do the pants though really quick to kind of show, to kind of match this kind of blue. So the first thing I did is I start out with gray. Now I'm not going to do all the pants, I'm just going to do one pant leg here just to save time. And so you want to color all this in with gray here, making sure it's all showing up on the camera, which it is. Like that, and I might even go back over with one more layer, make it a little bit darker. It's always good to start out light, because you know, unless you know the color very well, you know exactly what you're shooting for. And I do a lot of experimenting. So when I start with that, now when I use a kind of more desaturated blue, and I can't remember honestly what desaturated blue I used, but let's just go with this blue here. Let's see how dark this is. Yeah, that should work. And this is what I'm gonna go into, and I'm gonna just only put this into most of it, but not to where I want the highlight. So notice that this is where most of the highlight color is. So I'm going to leave a lot of that there. I'm just going to come in with one layer. And notice that how more desaturated this blue looks because I laid that gray down. And then I'm going to blend it in with the gray. I'm just being very sloppy here just to kind of show you how the color theory works with Copic markers to get that kind of painted look. I'm going right back over it again with the gray, and I'm blending with the gray instead of with a clear stump, and that desaturates it even more. Now just to give an idea, I'm going to put the color right next to it, not desaturated, so you can see after it dries like what the gray does. It really does add a huge difference. Now I can add a darker blue, or I can even add a darker gray. So I'm going to start with the darker gray first for the shadow area. And I can start to see what this right here looks like for the shadows. And remember, I can always go darker where I want the darker part of the shadows to be. And let's say I want to kind of blend that in a little bit, then I can come back in either with the blue, if I want it more blue, or if I want it more desaturated, or I can even use the clear blender. But in this case, I'm just use the light gray here that I used before. I'm going to just kind of blend right on the edge only, because I want it to kind of blend in. I don't want it to have like a hard edge, at least not on that part right there. And then I can go, okay, do I want to use a darker gray? Because the gray is still going to go over the blue, and then I can come back over that with a color. So either like a complementary color, so a warm color, or I can come back over this with a blue, the same blue again, to kind of bring back some of that blue color within the shadow. But right now you notice it doesn't look nearly as as saturated, which is what I'm going for. So it still retains that blue color, but not so blue. And I'm going to actually use a really light blue here. I'm going to kind of blend that out with the light blue. And what this is going to do is it's going to add a little bit of color into the jacket. Now if I use something like a pink, like the RV21, this is on the opposite side of the color wheel. This is on the warm side. So basically I'm just taking a warmer color. Now with paints, this works very differently than with markers. So and I'm going to add a little bit of this right into the blue itself to kind of knock it back. And notice when I do that, I'm going to add a little bit right here if you can kind of see what that does. You can see how it knocks it back, and it kind of like adds, because it's like complementary color, kind of like dulls things out and grays things out. Now I want to add just a little bit of yellow and maybe even peach color. And right away I'm going to add just a little bit of yellow. That's going to be way too yellow. I already know that. So right away before it dries, I'm going to come back in with the light gray color and tone that down. Just going to desaturate it. And so now you have this, you can still tell the pants are blue, but they're not so blue like this blue, like a cartoon blue. They're more like the jacket over here. And I can continue, lifting this off if I want to get it more like that there. And then if you want, there's techniques where you can use like Prismacolors. You can use the whiteout ink. I'll show you really good whiteout ink. You can also use these like white pens. This here is from Japan, and the name brand is Uniball Signo, S-I-G-N-O, and the number is UM-153. I got it imported from Japan. And this is good if you wanted to just add, let's say, I don't know, some highlights like this into the jacket or something for some reason. It's really good to make things look like liquid or things like that, or metal. Like in this case, I used it up in here to make it look like the blood, or in this thing here, I added that in there. And then you want to kind of go back over with the color. I usually like to go back over the color, so I'd use like a slight like pink color, for example, very light. This is the same skin tone. And you let it dry for a while, and you just go right back over those whites, so it's not pure white. Now, if you want to leave it pure white, you can. You can also go with just a little bit of like a light gray, because you never really want anything to be pure white, because there's nothing that's pure white in nature. It might look like it's white to you, but it's never going to be pure white. It's always going to be either a little bit of gray, a little bit of blue. Even snow. When you paint snow, if you want to make it look realistic, you add a little bit of like gray or gray blues and things like that. Now, still, the skin tone to me, it's almost working over here. I'm going to come back in. I'm going to kind of blend a lot of this color back in with the original skin tone. And if I wanted to, I could even add like a darker skin tone here that's a little bit more on the red side. Let me see what color skin tone this is here. I'll let you know the color in just a second if I decide to use it. I might even want to use a darker one. That's too light. It's not going to do anything. So this one here is EO4. I think this is actually what I used last time. And you just bring this right back in here over the shadows, and it's going to kind of just take away some of the color, so it's not such a bright color change. Got an ant here. Ant season. Gotta love it. Got ant traps everywhere now. And so now you can see how much less cartoonish that looks. So if you go back to the beginning of how this arm looked before, and now you can see it's starting to match more of that, realistic look rather than a kind of painted look. And then I can come in with my pen here, and let's say I want to get rid of some of these lines. So these lines here I actually printed out. Notice that these lines aren't black. This is a trick I learned. I use the cheapest Canon printer that they sell at Walmart. And I do a lot of labels for my LED business, and so for shipping for FedEx. Anyway, what I found out though is even though it's not an ink, it's just a regular old inkjet printer, and people told me, no, you can't use Copic markers with inkjet. Well, this entire, that's all I've been doing. I draw this digitally. That way I get the lines really, really thin. There's a few that I actually drew by hand with like a small Faber-Castell pen, but I noticed that the Faber-Castell pen, even if you let it dry you have to let it dry for a good day or more, otherwise it will bleed, and even then it still kind of bleeds a little bit. And I used some of that in his hair here. I outlined his hair with that. Anyway, so I'd probably use like a really fine tip Sharpie instead. Anyway, there's other brands too. The lines here, I chose to color them in Manga Studio, or now called Quip Studio Paint, basically close to the colors I was going to be working with. So here I kind of use like a darker skin tone for all the line work. Here I use a gray for the pants. I use kind of a diluted, desaturated blue line work for the jacket and so forth. That way you can't really see the lines when I'm done, and that's a good trick. This one here I just straight did right with this pen. Notice that because it's dried for several days, it's not blending or anything. I can blend right over those. So Faber-Castell is excellent pens for art, and recommend getting a fine tip one for doing your line work. This is an S. I still don't think it's quite fine enough. I think they sell a super fine one, which is probably what you're going to want for doing your line work. But anyway, I can take this pen here. Sometimes you have to kind of work off your page, and I go right over the line work where I knew these are supposed to be highlights, and I can add some highlights right back into the skin there. I know it's kind of hard to see, and it's very, very, very like subtle, but that will allow me to go back later after that dries and add a little bit of like yellow, whatever color of light I'm using. I think of your light source. Now, another stuff you can use if you're good with paintbrushing, now if you're good with these brush tips, then you can probably use the paintbrush with some practice. And this stuff here is great. This is Kiritake. This is also Japanese. This is some of the best stuff for if you want to do black and white comics or anything like that, or if you want to add white that you can color back over with your watercolors or Copic markers. This is what to use right here. Hopefully you can kind of see that and read it, but it's Kiritake white ink and the number 30. And it doesn't take very long if you buy it on Amazon. That's where I bought it. This is great stuff. You can use a thin brush. I like using the Kiritake number 6 fine tip. This allows me to get a really fine tip. You want to, when you do this, you want to kind of like after you get the paint, you want to kind of go like that and roll it in a circle to get a nice fine tip. And you can get super fine tip work with this, like really fine lines. In fact, let me just kind of show you that really fast before we continue on. We're going to do a couple flesh balls. And then how I got the metal look, that's just that's just normal painting technique. So I know there's a lot of color in here, so I imagine the sky color and stuff like that. So I add a little bit of green, a little bit of purples, a little bit of blues. The darks are never black. I never use black. So unless I want more of a graphic design look or something like that, then I can use black. But if you want more of a painterly look, don't ever use black. Instead, use lay down like a purple, and then lay down a blue over that, and then you can sometimes like use a complementary color to diffuse that, or like a gray or something. So if I just take a little bit of this white ink, you don't need much of it. I'm just going to grab a little bit on the tip of my brush. I'm going to kind of swirl it around like this, and I'm going to take it off on the edge right here. I'm going to kind of come down here. I'm going to kind of swirl in the paper first. I don't want too much on there. Now normally I would do that on a paper towel, but I didn't plan on doing this. So let's say I wanted, I don't know, let's say he has some wet lines on his hand here. I can get just as thin as lines as what the printer prints out. And look at that. And what's really cool about this is this stuff right here is great. It going right over the black line right there. You can see how good it covers up color. And it goes quite a ways. It doesn't just last a short period of time. You can actually go quite a ways with this stuff. I'm going to come in here and just kind of get rid of some of this line work right here. Notice how much line work I've already laid down, and I'm still continuing to work. And I love this brush. This is again the Kiritake. You buy it from. I couldn't find this on Amazon. I had to actually buy this from some website. I can't remember the website it was, but it was in English, so I didn't have to. You don't have to like read Japanese to order it. But anyway, yeah, it was a Kiritake number 6 fine brush, and it's the non-synthetic one. So it's the one that actually uses, I think it's sable hair. I think they sell 2 different ones. They sell one also use goat hair. And I'm just showing you how you can just go right over stuff and add. Matter of fact, I'm going to take this whole entire edge right here. I'm going to paint right over it as if, let's say, I made an error and I didn't want any of that black to show, or I just don't want the black to show anyways. I want it to be more painterly, so I'm going to kind of blend that out a little bit. And you can blend it out with water, by the way. And I'm going to leave that on there right now because I have to go after this video and go and wash this off. Oops. Actually, I just laid down some color there. I'm going to leave it sitting up in my cup here, and I'm going to take that when I'm done with this video and go and clean it. And this stuff cleans really easy. It's water soluble, so you don't have to worry about using any kind of weird stuff. Now, if you want to accelerate the drying, you can use a blow dryer. I don't have the blow dryer with me, but you can blow dry this stuff. And we'll go back to that after we do some flesh balls here really quick. So now, to get the idea, so the basic idea, the basic colors I like to use, and you can mix this up. But these 3 colors right here are my main colors, or these 4 colors right here. These are my main colors that I use for my flesh tones. This is my foundation right here. So these are like my shadows. This is the mid-tone in between the shadows, and this is the main skin tone. It's E21, RV21. Maybe I don't know if you'll be able to see these anyway on there. Maybe if I go like this. Anyway, hopefully you can just hear what I'm saying. You know, actually, I'm going to zoom in just in case you can't hear what I'm saying. Hope you can see it. So E21, RV21, BV00, BV04. This makes a great foundation, and then you can start building on that with colors like this one here is really great. In fact, I'm going to move these around. This should be with my skin tones. And this is your EO4. So this is a really, really great color. All right, so let's zoom out here a little bit, and let's work on that flesh ball. So for a flesh ball, again, you always start with your base color. So this is the E21. And I'm not going to leave any white on the paper because flesh doesn't have white in it. That's a big mistake that people make. It's not a mistake if you're going for the graphic design look. If you're going for, you know, a certain kind of cartoonish look, then that by all means go ahead and leave the, you know, I don't want to ruin the painting. I already did. I think it started to add some. So really quickly, I want to remove this because I don't want to mess it up. I'll set that to the side. I would show you guys some other stuff, but I'm trying to keep this one safe for Google advertising. Because if you have like anything that's like nudity or anything like that, then yeah, it doesn't go over well with trying to advertise it. They actually won't even let you advertise it, even though it's not like not like sexual nude. You know, it's not like pornography or anything. I'm just showing if I go back over this white that it will actually go over and make it yellow. See, I'm just very lightly going over where I put those white lines, and now they're yellow lines. And that's what's good about that stuff. And if you don't let it dry, it'll actually start blending right out. So you can, if you want to like not let it dry completely, you can actually kind of blend that paint out and get kind of a smooth edge on some parts. It's really cool. It's very versatile. If you let it dry for a while or blow dry it, then you can go over with the color really easy. But now you notice I have that kind of yellowish color in there. All right, so next thing is, I like to try not to let this dry usually when I'm working, so the flesh ball. But let's go ahead and add in the next color. Now this is going to be like where I want that kind of line. That I want to keep that line there. But I'm going to start with this color because I want to layer the colors. By layering the colors, it allows them to, you know, blend together, which I like. And then I'm going to add my, oh, I forgot to have my light blue color here too. Sorry, I forgot to mention this color, the B00. This is a really good tone to use as well, but if you want a different look, so it's just something different. But I'm going to use my BV00. All right, so this is the purple. I'm coming right over that pink, and notice it's blending together with it, but I'm going to leave the little bit of that pink there on the edge. Now if I want to kind of blend that out, I then come back in with my original skin tone. Oops. That's one thing I like about the Copic Chow. It uses the exact same ink, the exact same tips, everything's the same, except they're round instead of like the more like squarish look you get from the other Copic markers from the Sketch brand. They're the same, again, everything's the same. You can refilm with the exact same ink and everything. These are just cheaper to start out with if you want to see if you want it to work with them, and I wasn't sure if I was going to want to work with them or not. And I really do like them a lot, so I'm going to add a little bit more purple back in here on this part right here. Just add a couple layers of that. Boom. Now that right there is the basic idea for my flesh tone. I might want to, sometimes I'll come back in, I'll add just a little bit of this like line right here, this using this RV21 to add that kind of warm highlight there. Now if I have kind of a more of a yellow tint to my light color, then I might try to find a yellow, and then I'm going to blend that yellow out. And I'm either going to blend that yellow out with this color here. Now sometimes if I realize that this is just too hard of a line, I just kind of work it in with this clear color. This is the blender, this is the number 0. And what this does, it just allows you to get rid of that hard line that was there. Notice the hard line's gone now. I'm also going to get rid of the hard line right here inside. And as long as you're still working with this, you can actually, you know, it'll dry. Like right now, it kind of looks like it has this kind of almost silvery look to it. Don't worry, that will dry and look normal. Now I'm going to take the yellow. I think I'm going to do is I'm going to use yellow in the blender. So I'm going to show you a new technique, because I already showed you how to take the yellow and then use your base skin tone to blend it out. Instead, I'm going to use a little bit of yellow here, and I'm going to blend that out with the clear. I don't want to get rid of it totally, but I do want to blend out the edges. So now there's just a little bit of yellow highlight within the highlight part of the skin tone. Now if I need to go darker, I can use darker colors. I think I already used this. Did I already use this darker? The BV04, I think I did. Let me just make sure. No, I didn't. So I could use this right here to add this kind of darker edge in here, and then I can blend it out with the clear, or I can blend that back out with the skin tone. And this is also going to make it to where it doesn't look so blue. If it was watercolor, I would mix that with my, or any kind of paint, gouache or acrylic or oil. What I would have done is I would have taken that color, this color right here, and I would have mixed this with the skin tone together. So I would have taken these two colors. These have been two pieces of paint on my mixer board, and I would have mixed a little bit of this into this, and then I would have added that right there, boom, like that. Now, if I still feel like that's too strong, I can come back in with my clear, and I can start to kind of blend in, especially some of the edges here. Then I can also come back in with another darker color. I think I've already used the darkest tone that I have with me right now, which is this tone here, but I can always come back in with it anyways and add that right back in there. And then using my base skin tone, go right back over this again. And it's this layering effect of all these different colors. And I'm actually going to go all the way over this one more time to kind of knock it back a little bit so it's not. And there you go. And that's pretty much it. Now you can call that done if you want to. But let's say you wanted some really harsh transitions. Not harsh, but you wanted some really strong transitions of shadow. I can go with the E08. I can just come right in here like that. And next say, okay, that's not enough. What if I want even darker than that? I can use like a darker brown or a darker red. Let's go ahead and get crazy here. Just to show you can use all kinds of crazy colors. We'll add a red. And then immediately over that, we're going to add a blue. I don't want to go too dark of a blue. And these are complementary colors, so they're going to kind of work against each other and get more grayish. Notice how already they notch each other back, and then I'm going to go back with this darker color here, the E04, and I'm going to kind of start blending this out a little bit. And then I'm going to come in with my pink tone here to add some of that back into the transition where you have the warm. So remember, where shadow meets the normal skin tone, it's going to, I'm going to go back with my base skin tone here and blend this out. But where shadow meets and turns over to the actual skin tone, that's where you have the warmest color. That's just a rule to memorize for any sort of art or painting. And so now you have a nice skin tone. We'll let that dry. And this is basically how I got his original skin tone. That's basically what I did here. I just kept going back and forth using different colors. You can see a lot of this purple color here made its way into the shadows and went back over with this color here, the E04. So these two colors together, put this down and put this over it. So put the BV04 down and then over that the E04 right away. So I'll show you what that looks like really quick. So you would put this down and then right away before it dries, you would blend this right into it. And boom, look at that, it gives you a really nice color. So notice it's not, and then you can even go back over that with your skin tone if you want to lighten it up just a little bit. And then you kind of, show that it goes into a skin tone. And so it gives that right, when that dries, it gives you a really nice color. So these two colors work really good together. And basically they're like on opposite sides of the color wheel. This is a warm color, this is a cool color. That's the basic idea of it. Now with paints, you can get really more accurate with it by using the exact opposite colors on the color wheel. And you can do that too. Like let's just do that for example. Let's try to use opposite colors on the color wheel. So let's say I had an orange and I wanted to knock it back. So these oranges are super orange too. These pins are just so crazy. I'm going to knock it back a blue. So the opposite on the color wheel of orange is blue. And how to see that here is right here. So you have your three primary colors. And remember that put blue on the top and then yellow and then red. Those are your three primary colors. Yellow and red make orange. And exactly opposite, draw a straight line. Opposite of that is blue. Opposite of green is red. Opposite of purple is yellow. Opposite of purple is, or so excuse me, opposite of purple would be green, because you make a straight line across, sorry. And then, no, that's right. Sorry, opposite of green is red, my bad. Opposite of yellow is purple. You go like that. So you get all those different colors, and that's how you get the opposites. Okay. And this is not the best color wheel. If you look at an actual color wheel, you'll see what I'm talking about, what colors are opposites. Now watch this trick right here. So you have an orange, you put an orange down. You're like, whoa, that is super bright orange. You can take a blue, this might be too dark of a blue, and you can add the opposite color in there, and I can add some of my original orange back in there. But now you can see it's knocked it down a little bit. Now if I want it less desaturated, you can also take just a little bit of gray, and this is the lightest gray, and just add that right over there. Now you have kind of an orange color. Now if I would have been very careful, let's say I want to make a little circle. If I'm very careful, and in fact, instead of, what I'm going to do, I'm going to knock that back with gray. I'm going to be very careful not to go outside the lines this time. Already you can see it's not such a saturated orange. Now instead of using that bright blue, I'm going to use a really light blue, because these aren't paints. And what this is going to do is it's going to counteract the orange, and it's going to knock the orange back so the orange isn't so saturated. And now I've just desaturated the orange, and I did it that simple. Alright, so that's the basic idea behind blending with Copic markers, and a little bit about color theory on how to get things to where they don't. Remember when this first started out here, this looked very cartoonish. Now I can come back in here now and adding some complementary colors, so adding some blue right into the red here. And this has been drying for a while, so it might not work so well, but we'll find out. I'm going to come over the entire thing with a very thin. This is a very light color, as you can see. It doesn't have a lot of ink in it, mostly alcohol. But notice how I add this over everything, and it all starts knocking back the color. Now it's all less desaturated, and that's how you get that kind of awesome look to it. And then if I wanted just a little bit of red, I can add a little bit of red back into some of the highlight areas, or not highlight, but some of the transitional areas where the dark is turning over to the lighter side of it, and like that. And just add just a little bit will go a long way, and that's going to register now as, hey, that's red. And I can even knock that back with a little bit of gray, because I feel like that's still a little bit too bright. I don't like working with a lot of saturated colors, because then it starts to look cartoonish. And there you go. So, all right, I think that's a long enough video. I think we've been, a little bit over about, looks like maybe 35 minutes or something like that. If you have any questions, please let me know. I'm also going to be coming out with a gouache tutorial soon, and also a watercolor tutorial, because watercolors are really fun. And I'm going to show like wet on wet techniques that a lot of people like to use to get the nice, smooth skin tone. But I'm going to show you similar techniques of using proper color theory to get nice skin tones, to where you don't have skin tones that look more painterly, and they don't look so, with watercolors you can make this a lot more subtle too. You can make it more subtle too with the Copic markers, but yeah, I really want to just show how you can get really nice blending techniques. I have a certain blending technique that I use with watercolors that works really good, and I'll show you guys really quickly here before I go. If you haven't seen one of my watercolors yet, a couple of my watercolors that I've done where you get that more blended look, and you can get a mixture between kind of like hard lines and non-hard lines. So let's look at that really fast before we go. Actually, you know what? They're all part of my figure surreal collection, and I don't know, maybe Google won't care if it's at the end and it's not really, I don't know, they might not let me advertise. I really wanted to advertise this video to kind of give a boost to the channel and everything I have. Anyway, look at my other videos of my watercolors. So just some of the last videos I've done, and before this one here, and or just type watercolor onto my channel and you can find it. But look at the difference between his pant leg and his shirt now. Now I've already knocked back his shirt a little bit, so it's not as cartoonish. But notice that this looks way less cartoonish. It looks much more painterly because you have a blending of these different colors together. And you can see how painterly this looks. You can see how, look at how not orange that looks right there. And again, sometimes just using gray and whatever colors you're doing, let's say you wanted to make an orange shirt. So you can take a darker gray, this is C3, and you can lay down, let's say I want his pants to look this kind of like orangish color, right? No, not his pants. Let's say I want his shoes to be orange color. I can lay down this gray here. I'm going to lay a good amount of it down. And let's go up here where you can see the shoe. Bam, sorry, I just added the gray onto it. Take this really bright orange. Look how bright orange is by itself. I'm going to add it right next to the shoe so you can see the difference. Boom, now he has an orange shoe, but it's not so orange. And I can even add, I can start to desaturate some of it like that. It's not so orange though that it looks like that, like cartoonish. It looks more like more of a realistic orange. And then you can even go in and add like a little bit of purple for some of your, to start your shadows. Like so. This is a really good color for shadows, BV04. You can use it for almost anything. And then let's say I want to add, I don't know, like a darker brown to go over that. Then I can always blend it back out with whatever I want, and that would be like a little bit of gray. And we'll kind of blend this in a little bit. And there you have it. I can even blend it back in with the orange if I want to bring just a little bit more orange back, especially on the edge there. And add a little bit of orange. There you go. So notice that because I had that gray underlining, the orange is almost impossible to bring back to a really, really vibrant orange. And so if you do want a vibrant highlight somewhere, then make sure you leave that there. I'm going to bring this a little bit closer to the camera, or actually I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. I'm going to try to zoom in on the shoe here so you can see what I'm talking about here better. Right? It almost looks like a brown instead of an orange. See how bright the orange is next to it? That's where you don't have the gray. Now watch how I can knock that gray down or that orange down by just adding the gray in there. Boom. And it doesn't matter. I can go back over as many times as I want with this now, and it's never going to be a super vibrant orange, and now that blends together really good. And that's how you get, now I'm going to, again, so you can see the difference, I'm going to put the bright orange next to it. So that's how you that's one way to desaturate, is just using gray with Copic markers. You can also try using the complementary colors of orange. The orange would be blue, and I recommend using a lighter blue like this one here, the B00, and you can add that blue right in there, and it kind of, you know, it's interesting. It's like not, it knocks it down in a different way. Like it's a little bit more vibrant, but you can still see it neutralizes it to where it's not so vibrant. And hopefully, oops, sorry about that. Let me go ahead and go like this so you can kind of see it. See those colors? So this one here is with the blue added to it to knock it down. And that one there is with the gray, and that one there is the pure orange color. And the shoe uses the gray. Yeah, so there it is, folks. Hopefully that helps you guys. I should have zoomed out a long time ago. I don't know why I zoomed in, or kept it zoomed in. If this has helped you at all, please go ahead and leave a like and subscribe. And hey, you know, sharing the love is awesome. So go ahead and share. You know, share this video with all your social media, because the chances are, if you got something out of it and you learned something from it and you enjoyed it, that somebody else will also enjoy it. Okay, thank you for watching. And if you guys have any questions, please let me know in the comment section, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. And yeah, so that's it. All right, thanks for watching.